Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come and see what we've got. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Ignite Your Heart and Soul. I'm your host, Sara Troy, and my repeat guest, this is our fifth wonderful interview together, is Kimberly Brown. Oh, this is a woman that spreads her wings. She's been a Camonite nun. She's traveled all over America, and she's got her wings going in again and going to take people on a mystical journey, a self-discovery into the mystique that lies within us and around us and what it means to us. She has a beautiful writing course coming up. She has a wonderful travel going throughout Europe and Spain and visiting the monasteries. She's just doing so much. And the reason why she does it is because she comes from heart and soul. And it's all about switching on that light within us, feeling the flame of our souls and our hearts, finding our beautiful instrument in life, learning to play it and bringing it to the orchestra to expand it out and resonate it out to everyone else. You're going to love this show, I promise you, and I invite you to go back to listen to all the other shows that we did with her. Each one of them will illuminate you because that's the kind of person she is. Welcome back, Kimberly.
Great to be with you, Sarah. Mwah. Get the camera so I can kiss into the camera. Hello, everyone, for joining.
Hello. My goodness, girl, you do not sit still.
This
You
is
were
true.
always spreading those wings and flying off somewhere and creating something else. And I want to take the glasses off. So I'm going to first just look at the various things that you've got going on. And it's Within Two Hearts, Teresa and yours. And this is 5 weeks of your mystic side. And this is all about the interest of Teresa of Avila
Avila.
and Avila,
Avila. Mm-hmm.
and kind of exploring the healing side of it, the change that's within it, bringing out the beauty of your soul, and the writings opening up the doors of friendship to you. We're going to be talking more about that, but I also want to get over to the other side where we're also looking at the Essence Tribe, where you renew your heart, explore your truth, be with friends. Friends is important, folks. And then you've also got this wonderful tour coming up Within the Hearts of Teresa and John in 2019 with Kimberly Brown, a former Carmelite nun, and you're taking people to Spain. And that just sounds absolutely wonderful. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. I want to have the glasses off. I want to hear all about it. And just, as I said, this is not a woman that sits still and waits for people to come to her. She goes out and reaches the people. And it is about setting that little flame up in someone's heart and soul, isn't it? And just watching it grow in understanding and just seeing them become.
Yes, I found a lot of times, actually pretty consistently through my own life, because we all have our gifts and our roles, and I have found a lot of times those that are coming across my path, whether they're seeking to work with me, whether it's just friendship in a grocery store, whatever capacity it might be, that there's something about the encounter that is like a catalyst. And there's always an experience of themselves that they have. It's like I get to show up and be the witness of that and celebrate that essence.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to experience it. And I think it's because, from, as you know, from our other interviews, that from such a young age, for me, life hasn't been about anything else other than these realms. And so there's something in me that just kind of walks in that, almost like Linus that has the cloud around him. I'm kind of walking in a much more pleasant cloud, more glimmery and glittery. And
there's a lot of people that rediscover, kind of redirect in their lives, but what they realize they did maybe in corporate world or in another world is they gather tools of understanding for them to break away to do what they need to do. Would you say that being a Camonite nun was where your training ground was, where you kind of learned some tools and skills to then take on your true journey of your true calling?
I frame it a little differently. That could very possibly be true, but for me, my pivotal formation happened when I was really young, and it set me up for the ecstatic love affair in my late teens. And so I do think that the Carmelite time in the monastery was incredibly formative, and I never thought I was going to leave. And it definitely allowed me to immerse myself without
Mhm.
distraction. And so, by virtue of that single hearted focus, it definitely formed me to be of greater service. But I wouldn't claim it as my place of formation that moved me into my ministry. I would think that I have found that having been in the monastery, there was a great sense of being of service in the world.
Mhm.
And for me, some of the learning is finding that I'm still of service. And if people look at it from the outside, they would think, well, now I'm of service.
Mhm.
And then I was in formation for service. And it's a little juxtaposed for me. For me, it's like I felt of much greater service in the monastery. And here I'm much more in the trusting darkness of everything I'm doing is of service, but I don't have as much a felt sense as I did in the monastery.
Well, you were kind of more protected there too, weren't you? And you could be more focused directionally on what you were doing. Now, of course, out in the real world, you're among the static and you're around amongst the chaos, and you're trying to bring a loving order to that, where people can listen to their heart and souls and
Yeah.
ignite that spirit. And it's very hard to sometimes do that because obviously in the monastery, you're all on that same vibration. But out in the real world, it's the vibration is going up and down and in and out and and trying to grab people and come and dance to my rhythm, come and dance to my rhythm and feel the beat of life and feel the beat of love and step into it. But it's almost like pulling them out of a tornado sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and I kind of have a little bit in my hope of attracting more and more people to kind of step into this mystic journey with me. Um, I have very little. Um, my operative principle isn't that movement of getting
Mhm.
people, but I do think you're speaking well to it, because when we're so inflamed with what is life-giving, there's a natural desire, not as much to get but as much as, here's the ice cream cone, like,
Yes.
oh, that's awesome. So I know you're speaking to the exact same thing in different language.
Yeah.
um,
Well,
but
you
that's,
become the inspiration that becomes the invitation.
yeah, yes,
So when they see you being who you are, living
yeah,
in this light, it becomes that, is it possible for me? Can I find
yes,
that light within me? And that's,
totally,
that's what that inspiration is. And it really, never mind what we're doing or how we're doing it, but being it is the first step, isn't it? We must be the light that we've been given to shine upon people.
yes. Yes, absolutely. And I love that return of focus. And that speaks very highly to these ventures I'm on right now that are really allowing a much more raw and honest investigation of the notion of mysticism.
Hmm.
So absolutely. And I think it's kind of it's a word that keeps popping up. And I'm finding even more and more spiritual teachers are framing what they're doing by speaking of it as
Yes.
mystical training or
Hmm.
mystical writing, or so it's become this phrase that I think is kind of calling us, whether we stand for or against it. And I just recently wrote an article, and you'll get a kick out of this, because in my curiosity, I Googled the word just to see what various definitions were. And the predominant definitions are two incredibly polarized descriptions. One
Up to
is,
interpretation.
yes, one is the experience of ultimate reality. And
Hmm.
they use words like intuition and surrender into divine and all the other. There's a number of different definitions that are kind of this experience of reality. And the other definition is delusion. Ideas that, and it's so interesting that that word, the only definitions are like exactly
Yeah.
opposite. So when we wrestle with the idea of mysticism, no matter where we land on the spectrum, we're actually grappling with one of the most important questions: is this part of ourselves real or delusional?
Yes, and I can see why there is that polar opposite there, because only again when you step into it do you truly actually understand the immersement of it. And when there's always this conversation, to some people an argument, about what dreams are, or alternate realities, as people like to put it. And I look at everything with an energy signature. And if you are dreaming, who's to say you're not living that in an alternate dimension that's still very much a part of you? Why do we have to contain everything into one vessel, into one body? Why is it that we cannot expand our energy, our mystical energy, out into the wonderment that has shown us? That is a world that doesn't have the limitations, or it doesn't have the dictation that we've put upon ourselves here as human beings. And why do we just decide that that dreaming is delusional and that this is the only reality? I wrestle with that because I live in those other dimensions, and that's where the creativity comes from. That's where the understanding comes from, where the connection with the divine comes from. So I look upon it as just an extension of your energy that is traveling through time, if time is even another question that is in question, as an experience to bring back to this reality to set forth and do with.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love your languaging around it. And I do think I use the word timeless in my work
Mm,
a lot because I think it's a concept that every human being can relate to.
yeah,
There's inevitably a moment, whether you would call yourself spiritual or not, that you have had an experience when everything seemed to dissolve away
yeah,
into a state that felt very ineffable, that felt had qualities of what people call like peace and harmony and oneness, and those experiences themselves are oftentimes my entry point so that people can go, oh, I have had that experience.
yes.
Because so often, approaching people as a minister and a nun, people think I have this special life instead of having actually a very natural and common life that's very relatable. And so I loved the thought of what you put out there as energy signature.
Mhm.
And what could it be if we grow our awareness that our energy signature is much more than what we might contain in our language? Where could that possibly lead us?
Yeah, I mean, the exploration of it, the adventure of it, the discovery of it. We're called self-discovery here. And if we stop discovering ourselves, our roles here, um, our abilities, because I think most of the time on the human side of things, we sell ourselves short. You must, you will, you can't, this is all you're cut out for. And when we take all those limitations away and are willing to explore in that self-discovery of what if I can, what else is out there? What am I meant to do? Um, what is my contribution? And are willing to kind of ride that beautiful vibrational wave into that beautiful mystical world of divine energy that's going to guide us and feed us and nurture us and show us our way, then I think we truly actually understand what living really is.
Mm, yes. No, I love that. I love the way you're speaking to it. And I think that realizing that it's play and not work is
Hmm.
still learning as Westerners.
Yeah, I mean, why does your own self-discovery have to be hard work?
Right.
And it's like you've got to go into all your past and all your beliefs. Yeah, there's certain beliefs that you need to understand have to go. Press delete, right? They're old programming. They're not serving you anymore. Yes, they are the reason why you make the choices that you make. But when you actually understand that those old programmings and that old pattern of choice making comes from XYZ, you now can make a choice into, okay, I know I'm being governed by this. Maybe it's post-traumatic stress. Maybe it's DNA memory. Maybe it's old pains I haven't yet dealt with. You need to deal with them to release them. And then it's like, but what can I learn from them that I can take forth? And I think one of the biggest things that people learn is just how much strength and courage they really do have when
Oh,
they
so
decide.
true. Right. So true. So true. There is a great a book, and so for any listeners, I definitely have a strong Christian mysticism, but I'm not of that lineage anymore. So I'm just universal in my lineage. I feel like whole the whole human race is my tribe.
Mm-hmm,
That said,
mm-hmm,
I feel
mm-hmm,
I feel very free to draw upon some of the Christ anointed cosmology that we have. And when you take a deeper look at the paschal mystery of life, you can see, and I'm taking this from a book called Holy Longing, there's 5 pieces that we experience. And I would also see this as very true of the story of Kali, the goddess Kali.
mm-hmm,
That is, Kali is completely immersed with the time cycles and has everything to do with conception, birth, life, and destruction and reabsorption.
mm-hmm.
And so when we look at our own lives and want to tap the deeper meanings, the deeper currents, the Paschal Mystery offers, when it comes to things that are painful, a great paradigm. We all have disillusionments that happen, whether it's betrayal or loss or misunderstanding or violence.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that, something of a death happens.
Yes.
We are crucified in it. Some aspect of ourselves is crushed. And then in that crushing comes the next part of the new life, because we continue to live. There's some
Mm-hmm.
life force that continues to live in us. And then in that life, which we might call Easter, there is the beautiful representations of walking then on earth in this traditional story of Jesus. Okay, he comes back to life, but then he walks on the earth
Mm-hmm.
as a new being.
Yes.
We die, we have a new insight, which takes great courage, and we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that, we walk on earth as we begin to integrate this aspect into ourselves, embody it. And then once we embody it, whatever that pain or that crushing was, it has served us, we ascend. And in the ascension, it blesses us. It becomes our gift in the world. And then in that gift in the world, as the ascension blesses, Pentecost happens in a new way, which all that is spirit comes alive in the world in some new way. And I think it's a beautiful paradigm that we could all apply anything in our lives to.
Yes.
And we can kind of see where we're at in the process.
And there's also the big C word, choice. Choice to move forward. Choice not to stay where we are. Choice not to keep bringing the past with us, but have the past guide us forward. Um, and that it's only when we decide to step into choice of being open and willing to receive, willing to learn, willing to allow this immersement to go through us. I love the Celtic runes, and there's a rune there called Hadglas. It's disruption. Whenever I used to get it, I go, no, I don't want any more disruption. But disruption is good if it's getting rid of the old, giving you that clean slate for a new canvas to be painted. And so whenever people are going through a transition, there's always going to be that haglas, that disruption going through. And then people get discouraged. Oh, but you've told me to do this and this and that. And look, all this is going wrong. And it's like, but you don't get a clean house without doing housework, right? And sometimes that spring cleaning is, maybe a renovation. And you've got to be willing to go through that in order to get to the other side, so that now you are open and ready to receive and step into the discovery of your beingness.
Right. And what then, because I have my reflection. So what would you say, Sarah, when it's when there is openness and clarity to have the experience, the discovery of your being, how do you speak to when there's doubt that what will be experienced will be life-giving? When there's doubt that that inner essence, like, will I really find that I'm guided, or
Yeah.
am I existentially really alone? Will I really find that at essence I'm goodness, or am I going to be terrified because I'm going to see only darkness?
Mm-hmm.
How do you speak to that? Because there's ways that I speak to that.
For me, first and foremost, you must feel your knowledge, not think it.
Mm,
When we're in our head, this is the database, right? You know, there's the hard drive of the brain, and then there's the programming, the software. And you are operating on programming, on what you know, what has been given to you from before, maybe even part of, your DNA, ancestral DNA structure, or maybe even past life information. But this is the information you have. What people don't understand is the soul, the consciousness, the soul, and the heart have its own intellect. And if you step into the soul and the heart, feel that wonderful knowledge from the divine come to the heart, and in resonance and understanding, go to the spirit into action, and the head will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. If we stay in our head, we're always going to be in doubt, we're always going to be in fear, because the brain triggers that defense mechanism all the time. When we go into the soul and the heart, where there cannot be a lie, there can only be the truth, then we learn to actually feel our knowledge and extract what we need from our mind, from our brain, in order to apply it. So for me, it's always get out of the head, feel the knowledge to understand what you're thinking. Don't think the knowledge and try and feel it.
yeah, I love the way that you're speaking to that. Yes, thank you. I
And I know
totally.
it's a hard one because the head is always chat, 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 right? So you have to redirect that head so that you can hear your heart and soul. And I
Right.
think that comes a lot from service. When people step into service, when they step into caring for others, it ignites something, a chemistry and a passion within them, in this feeling that they start feeling, I really like this feeling. I
Mm,
like what this feeling means to me. And then they can start feeling the thoughts instead of being governed by them.
right. Right. And I love to frame when we're talking about the mind in the role of coming to wholeness, because as we know, the mind is a beautiful gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a fascinating thing that we can think about things and
Yes.
read things and work towards our own understanding using different forms of logic, not just one logic. But I love to reframe it, because oftentimes people feel dominated by that, they villainize the mind.
Yes.
And I love to situate it saying, well, actually the mind has been told it needs to be a master, but it knows it's only a servant.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we actually let the mind be a servant,
Yes.
its
Yes.
thoughts can be at the service of the
You're
soul.
right.
And
Yes.
so having to practice where, okay, how can it be a servant instead of a tyrant?
Right. I love that. Most certainly. Because our thoughts can cripple us. But when we change the dial, and as you said, being of service, when you step into that, um, a whole different thought pattern comes up, and it becomes so creative. When we are incredibly creative, aren't we? And we're so resilient, and we have got so much tenacity, and but we don't always feed. The society doesn't have us feed that side of it. Society is about control, keeping you in order. When you decide to break those chains and be your own person, be your own being, and allow your own thoughts to have wings, and step into that service, you then just discover all these beautiful thoughts that you had maybe not allowed yourself to feel before, and the creativity of them, and the other word, the possibility of them.
Yes,
Oh, now you're stepping into possible. What is possible, instead of no, that can't happen? What is possible? If I can think it, can I make it happen?
right. And so then, even circling back to the mystic aspects, I would think that the place of mysticism within us is in the realms of possibility and
Yes.
potentiality. And
Yes.
even the word itself kind of connotes, well, it's
Mm.
mysterious.
Yes.
Mysterious, it has to be kind of, there's a sense of rightness,
Yes.
and there's a lot of unknown
And
to
it's
it.
exciting
It
because
is
it's unknown.
exciting. It is. And
Yes.
one
Why
of
do
the
we want to go down a trodden path where we know every stop along the way and what the destination is going to be? I mean, same landscape as the last town. That's boring. Don't we want to discover what is out there? It also, I think, a big emphasis is that you don't need to understand every step of the way, right? You're not going to comprehend every single thing. But in the overall picture, you most certainly will understand why you're taking the journey. But it's not for you to understand every step. Don't go analytical.
right.
Become
I
aware, but not analytical.
I love your nurturing way of saying you don't need to, for those of
Mm.
us that put too much pressure. I also love that you can't understand the steps.
Right.
It makes it so a bit of an imperative. It's like part of the process
Yes.
is that you're not going to understand
Mm.
the
It's
process.
trust and faith, right? It's
Mhm.
trust in that beautiful divine presence that's guiding you. It's not going to guide you wrong, right?
Yes.
You may trip and fall now and again. That was deliberate. It's actually asking you, are you going to get back up? Is your strength and courage there to get back up? Have you found a different way to get back up?
Yeah.
Did you see something while you were down on the ground that you needed when you got back up? There is no accidents along the way, is there? And I love the old Star Trek thing, resistance is futile.
That's great. It's true, because it would be a denial of the very pulsing at the center of creation.
Hmm.
This is I went to a great talk of a physicist, and he has reconciled general relativity with quantum physics, where they seem to be separate. And part of them is his physics equation, which I can't give words to. I can only give the
Right.
takeaway,
Yes.
is that we are in a scale expanding cosmos,
Ah, yes, 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 yes.
which means, right, that the cosmos just simply isn't expanding. It is actually the very elemental level. It is scale expanding, which means that if we're a particle, we ourselves are not just kind of getting bigger. Every element of us
Yes.
is continually breaking new ground in being. And so the enjoyment is when we kind of say, oh, okay, I'm on for the
Mhm.
ride now.
Yeah. But that's the mystical, beautiful element of it is that, I refer to it very often as frequency and vibration. And, that the expansion that's going on right now, it's actually coming less in a kind of just a gentle grow, grow, grow as it has been. We're going to see some deep breaths, a real big expansion, little retraction, bigger expansion. And in that expansion is our consciousness, our frequency consciousness awakening, in that discovery of how much more we are and how much more capable we are of being. It will also kind of cut some people off by the wayside because they're just not willing to go with that frequency. But it's also, don't be afraid of it, because yes, you're going to go through every time there's a shift, there's some emotional things that come out of you. It's just shaking it out. It's also igniting that awareness of that consciousness and that frequency within you. This expansion is wonderful, because as we expand in that consciousness, we become so much more aware of what we don't know, but what there is still to learn. And it's so exciting if we decide to be the students and absorb and learn and don't put barriers on it. Just go with that vibrational flow. It's beautiful.
It is very beautiful, and it's making me think of my course that's going to start up on January
Yes.
28th. And it's a course that, and you can sign up for it at any time. It's evergreen.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do from time to time is actually launch a specific start date so that the group that's meant to be together for the deeper inquiry on the webinars start together and finish together.
Yes.
That being said, anybody can join at any time, because the videos and exercises are all self-moderated.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the reasons I wanted to create the course was because, speaking exactly to what you're saying, there are these individuals in history that energetically have walked that path.
Yes.
And what we find, like Rumi and Hafiz are so popular. And one of the reasons they're so popular, I think, is first, they're not of our day and age, so we're not
Right.
rejecting them because of what they look like or where
Right.
they live. And
Their selfie.
right. And their experience is so authentic that energetically it is timeless. So the
Mm-hmm.
writings have a vibrancy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found that in the writings of Teresa and John, Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross are some of the only Christian mystics that seem to penetrate to the hearts of people of all different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas just, many are contained right within the tradition and don't have appeal outside. Their writings seem to have enough relevance today that we've got modern translations happening and quoting of their poetry left and right, and an awareness of who and what they are. And Teresa, the reason I focused on her on the course is because she is so approachable.
Mm-hmm.
John is really approachable too, but John tends to be more lofty a lot of times in what he shares about his life. She is fiery. She gets angry at God. She dances in the kitchen. She loves her sisters. Even in the height of her own ecstatic experiences, she was still afraid of death. And
Yes.
so she witnesses to us that even when we have enlightened experiences, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have natural human in this body
Yes.
considerations of how am I going to make money?
Right.
Where am I going to live?
It's the
Do I
merging
want to
of.
die?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so, this course is not only 5 of her books where we'll go deep and let each person gets to reflect on their own experience, but it's also going to be about her and her culture and her times because she's got so much spirit. And she would probably be someone before anybody that grows in friendship with her, she'd be like, come on, get down on this journey. Like,
My
you
kind of
can do
woman.
it. so,
A
so
spirited person,
she is a
who,
spirited person.
exactly. And we need that because I call the spirit the action. When somebody's in spirited, they're in action, they're in that movement of. And, you refer to the human condition. We've got to understand that while we're in this vessel, this human flesh, organic flesh, we're going to have the human experience. But what we want to have is the human being experience, the beingness being our mystical, our divine presence, along with the human. When we actually merge the two, we actually understand the experience, that gift of touch, of taste, of hug, of love, of a kiss. It is something that you will get totally differently on a astral playing field, but in the physical one and those senses, stepping into our sensuality isn't about sex. It's stepping into our senses and rising them up and being connected and living that life exuberantly. But fear is in there too, because we do need to protect this vessel, this body, and we do need. And I think probably just an inkling when you said about her fear of death, I don't think she was afraid of the actual dying. I think she was afraid of leaving the party.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure that the unknown of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's some people are living such an exuberant life here and they go, I don't want it over yet. I've still got stuff to do. I don't want to come back and start all over again. Let's just keep the party going. There are those exuberant souls that, that they burn bright right to the end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Well, thank you for letting me kind of go down that alleyway with her. And I love the way there is an incredible malleability coming about being influenced
Mm.
by people from the past
Yes.
and realizing that energetic signature you spoke to, that we've got this line of continuity in humanity, that spirit's brimming to be informed,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
brimming
yeah.
to know itself,
Mm-hmm.
brimming to celebrate itself,
Yes.
and connecting through the airwaves of those mystics that walked on the earth and of the mystical realms of those
Mm-hmm.
friends and beings that don't, their call isn't to be informed. And yet for
Yes.
whatever
Yeah.
reason,
Yeah.
don't always care about this world.
Yeah.
Sometimes you wonder, like, why would all of these angels and all the rest care so much about this world?
Right. And you know, that brings up the question of time, because time is always in question. We live our lives by a linear clock, you know, because the sun rising, the sun going down, our day at work, and all of that. But time, what is it really? It's just another form of energy. It's just a thing that folds on each other. I think we can go into the past, we can go into the future, we can do it either through, quote, the black hole, if that's easier to understand, just stepping into other dimensionals of time. I think that time is just constantly there, that we can go into it at any time we want. And I think that one of the things that makes the metaphysical easier, if you don't put a time framement on it, and look upon it as a form of travel into time, wherever it is, at whatever time it is. Am I making sense? I'm sure you can make more sense
Yes.
out of
Oh,
this.
yes, yes, yes. No, I love that. I love that, for a while there, the popular parlance is that time is an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
And I much prefer that time is actually just an aspect of reality
Yeah.
that we've constructed to give us context. It helps us kind of understand some of the mechanical parts of what we're doing and why we're here. So it's not actually an illusion, but it's not the container of reality.
Right, I like that. Yes. And the emphasis of always living in the now, the gift of the present is in the now. And, you know, and the importance of living in the now, because right now, in this moment, this is the time zone we're in, right? But we don't know what time zone we're going to be in the next moment. It's now, right now. So many people are constantly looking forward to another time and not understanding the gift of the present.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love that. Yay, we're bringing in time.
And he's not old
time
Father
is
Time
on
either.
time is on our side.
And that's the thing too. Again, I think people are afraid of um, time running out.
Yeah.
And you know, for a lot of us, um, I was born a spiritual being. For me, really don't think I was ever an earthling. I just came here and became one. But you know, I'm most certainly a spiritual being, and I was out of time in the sense of my teachings and my beingness of who I was and what I was doing here. We're now seeing such an ignition of permission to step into the wonderment of the mystical and of the not yet understood, and that there is so much more out there, and that not to put the blinkers on, not to put the blinders on, and that it's okay to take this wonderful mystical journey and explore. And we're now at that permission and that time where we're seeing an escalation of soul awakening, of spirit awakening, that is so exciting. But it's also very necessary because it's raising the vibration and the frequency of the planet, which is in alignment with the universe, which is very, very necessary to keep the ecological balance between the two.
Yeah.
So it's more than just our mystical journey of understanding why we're here and what life's all about, but it's also that frequent balance that we are needing in that elevation.
Yes. No. Well put. Very juicy. Very juicy.
From, you know, from being the nun, and then of course you have explored, you have done so much, and you've just allowed your expansion to constantly grow and take you down different avenues. And next year it'll be another road that you will go down. You'll be back saying, I'm off to the moon, anybody want to join me?
Yes. I love that. I love that. I'm going to write that down.
But I love the fact that you allow yourself to expand and go down these journeys. You're not making the 5-year plan and the dictation of, I've got to be here, I've got to be doing that. You're just going down the road and say, you know, I need to share this. I need to stop here for a moment and share this and let expand other minds, other souls. And then let's go then on a wonderment tour in Spain of the monasteries and the stories that they're going to tell us. And I know next year you'll be on doing something else because you're always that seeker. But you're not just seeking for your own satisfaction. You're seeking so that you can bring out that expansion in others.
Mhm. Yeah, so true. So true. And I love that image you painted. I'm going to really, really be with that. I'm going to the moon. Who wants to join me? That was awesome.
I'm there. I'm there.
Awesome,
Is it made
awesome,
of cheese? I'm
awesome.
not sure. I'll bring the crackers.
I'll bring some wine.
Oh, yes. And we can sit there in a comfy chair with our wine and our cheese and the crackers and look down at the earth and contemplate. But who says we can't go there? Why, again, does it have to be the physical journey? Why can we not open up those channels and say, I want to go and experience the moon?
Right.
Is that just our own limitation that's stopping us from doing that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do think that's the case, that it is our own limitation. And I actually I'm softening even, I've always been very soft around words and concepts, just kind of grasping the bigger picture. And one of the ways I soften around limitation is it's a wonderful opportunity to actually identify a stage in development. You would never ask. I actually just watched a webinar earlier this morning, and she was speaking to the sense of wonder in relation to our business. So this was a business webinar. And she said, when you were a baby and when babies are born, what baby is going, I can't believe I don't walk already? I can't believe, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me that I am not walking?
I'm a failure.
No. If you look at any baby, there's this sense of wonderment as each little step progresses. And so I love even noting the limitation, because for me, it's an opportunity to say, oh, I'm not at that phase of development yet. I actually don't even know how to step into the unknown of that. And instead of kind of guilting on it or holding yourself accountable, it can open the door to the wonderment. Oh, well, it feels like that's possible.
Yes.
Yeah. How can I kind of take that first little, when that baby takes the first tiny little steps and they're so on the tips of their toes.
Yes.
Absolutely no balance at
wobbling
all.
all over the place.
Totally. Could we not enjoy that part of the process when it comes to self-realization? When we're really teetering and probably our heart's pounding and we're wobbling and we're on the tips of our toes. And then what can we do to support ourselves in loving that part of the process too? Like
I love it. But that first step was understanding I've placed limitations on myself and I want to step into wonderment. You've already opened the door.
Yes.
Yeah. You've already decided that you've been living by restraints.
Yes.
Societal or your own. You've limited yourself. And now that you want to take those brackets off and unsturdy on your feet, unknowing where you're going, but you've got to open that door of wonderment. Why do we love the Alice in Wonderland stories? Why do we love people who explore outer space? Why do we love people that go where no man has gone before?
Oh, I love that phrase.
Yes. It's because we are explorers in our DNA. Yeah. And life is about fluidity. The air and the water and the energy is constantly in movement. If you leave it in stagnation, it ferments. It blocks the energy can die. It has to be in movement. So does our minds and our curiosity and that wonderment, that self-exploration of understanding what else is out there. If we take that away from us, we are taking away our own beautiful fluid energy. That is one of the reasons why we're here for.
Yes. And I loved a quote by Einstein that speaks well to it. It gives a great image. Because sometimes we can feel stuck or stagnant or be resistant to moving. So it feels stationary. It feels like solid, like this. And he said most brilliantly, he said, we are either moving forward or we are moving backward. So even to stand resistant to our fluidity isn't holding pattern. It's actually moving backward. It's actually atrophying our very potential. Like, well, how dynamic is that to think, am I going to move forward or am I actually going to move backward? Because there is no waiting.
No, there is the stepping into the silence and the stillness,
Yes, which is different.
which is totally different.
Yes.
That is at the moment absorbing what you need to know. It is the channeling of knowledge to take with you on your forward journey. And we also need those moments sometimes just of spiritual respite to
Yeah.
recharge, or to even download what we've absorbed so far and just sit with it in peace and space. And then I'm ready for another adventure. And up you get and go. So it's not all about foot to the pedal. It's
Right.
taking those pauses. It's downloading everything that you've learned. And as I said, you don't need to hold on to every bit of knowledge. It's not for knowledge's sake. This is where wisdom comes in. The wisdom extracts the knowledge you need to know at the time, right? It is understanding what you need to know. You don't need to be an encyclopedia. All you need to know is what you need to know right now. And you'll be amazed when you step into wisdom of how you come up with things that you, God, how did I know that? It's because you allowed the wisdom to extract the knowledge that was already in your database.
Yes. Amen. And as Barbara Brennan put so well, and I would ascribe to her and Lynn McTaggart and all the rest, that we are in a field of intelligence.
Yes.
Everything we need to know and everywhere we will know is because we're in the field, and it's just a matter of like whether our receptors happen to be open to that particular information or not. We don't have to be the rigid knowers. It's like, if we're in the field and we're breathing it, we just simply need to stay open to that intelligence moment by moment.
I mean, imagine Hawkins. He found one theory and then debunked the theory he found. Now,
Totally.
so, we have many intellectuals that become so guarded. I interviewed this wonderful gentleman, Sam, they discovered the Bosnian pyramid. And this pyramid is the largest pyramid they know on Earth. And the things that they're finding, you could take people there, boy, that would be an exploration. The water chemistry, the air quality, the things that they're discovering about it, the geometrics of it, and that they were actually, there was 1,000 of them built as energy beams to extract energy from the planet, from the universe to feed the planet. All of this, it goes back God knows how many hundreds or thousands of years, but all of a sudden it debunked knowledge of the pyramids that people have known for hundreds of years. And instead of going, really? We had it wrong? Let's explore what the real knowledge is. It became debunking the findings of right there, right in front of them, of what they're facing. And I think this is sometimes where we need to gain the mind. If you're not igniting the heart and soul to know the truth of it, it just becomes knowledge. And if you become so protected of the knowledge, you've clamped yourself down, you've restricted yourself, and you're not allowing yourself to grow and expand. But if you take that breath and breathe out and go, I did not know that. I'm willing and open to explore other truths, and go in with an open mind and an open heart and an open spirit, right? Because who's to say we know it all? We don't. Tiny weeny little fraction,
Right.
if that.
And I love seeing people like Hawkins and all the rest who are so vulnerable. They can be so passionate. I've done the same. I am such a passionate speaker. And I look at the things that like 20 years ago I'd be talking about passionately.
Yes.
And yet in it, the passion itself left me open to being wrong, or not even being wrong, but being right for a time.
Yes.
Having a construct that made sense for a time, and then moving into the new construct and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
So oftentimes I work with so many people, and understandably have been so hurt by religion. But when they recapture the essence of what was alive as children, then the trappings of where it all fell short just fall to the wayside, and they can bring forward the experience, the essence experience, the mystical experience, and see how it's formed and informs them, even if they're never going to be a lineage-based person ever again.
Right. We have a host here, Reverend Charles Edwardus, and his show is The World According to Gus, God, Universe, and Spirit.
That's fun.
right? And so it's talking again about God's energy, and whether you want to call it universal, call it spirit, who cares? It's tapping into that beautiful divine source. It's tapping into that presence of,
Right.
and it's not about the title or getting stuck on the doctrine. It's about tapping into that beautiful energy. We are particles of the universe, and we are particles, if you want to call it God, we are made up of that. So when we ignite that, we are a part of that, means that we have that resources to that understanding. And yeah, I think I need to connect the two of you. You would have a very good conversation.
Oh, that
Yeah,
sounds really
yeah,
lovely,
and
right?
and a divine person, really,
Yeah.
being a reverend for 40 years, but he was shot in the face when he was young, and they didn't expect him to live, and then didn't expect him to speak, and he speaks very eloquently. And that's that journey of his. We always go, well, why? Well, it put him on a different path, right? And yes, extreme, but sometimes it is that extreme story that becomes that platform and that basis to really springboard from. And I think let's talk about fear, because a lot of people are afraid to go down the mystical road, because somewhere along the line, as you've put delusional, or it's also witchcraft. It's from the devil. Do you get that?
Mhm. I get it a little bit. More often, I get a sense of discouragement, that, a feeling of, I tend to find I come across more people who, even though they have faith and they rise into life, there's also an element of feeling a little powerless, feeling a little discouraged around the possibility that these realms, these parts of themselves, will liberate them.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yes.
find the realms of fear are a little more there than in the witchcraft and
Right.
holding it suspiciously.
Yeah.
But I do think it leads to suspicion. Um, but I think, since what I have found is that the path doesn't assure us that it's going to make us always feel happy.
Right.
Happy is part of the fruit. We become more and more stable in an enduring joy, in
Mm-hmm.
a state of wisdom. I I believe wholeheartedly that we are meant to be in a place where we are experiencing the freedom of ourselves more and more.
Mm-hmm.
But that mystical path, until we are stable in that state, is going to contain a lot of different states.
Yes.
And I meet a lot of people who are so devoted and give themselves so much to it and work so hard, and only to find that they'll have a recurring pattern that seems to haunt them for 20 years.
Right.
It's
Yes.
debilitating, and it can seed discouragement and fear that it's not safe to surrender into these unknown realms, that actually they're going to end up into an abyss of pain that's going to make them worse, or psychotic, or
Yes.
angry and bitter people.
Yeah, they don't realize it's actually the releasement. It's the stepping. The thing is, when you're stepping into self-care, self-kindness, you're stepping into self-love. In that self-love elevation, yes, stuff is still going to happen to you, but you're going to be in such a better place to handle it, that you're not going to go down the dark rabbit hole, because you are, as you said, you're on a beautiful energy plane. It's not about the highs and the lows. It's about just the little ups and downs that you can cope with. I think another thing that stops people from taking journeys is the fact that they have to take ownership of it. They have to be responsible for their own choices.
Right.
And a lot of people have been conditioned to lay blame elsewhere and abstain from taking any responsibility for their thoughts and actions. When we decide to step into this metaphysical, spiritual, divine path, it is taking ownership and responsibility. And that's not persecution. That isn't about judgment. It is about ownership of that. I am going to go down this path and allow and give myself permission to do it, no matter what happens. I will be present in it. And for a lot of people, it simply is too much work.
Mhm. Yeah, to unravel the lies that we buy
Yes.
into. there is a certain amount of diligence that goes
Yes.
there. So I try to enter in, and this is mainly because it's actually my path. My whole path is, well, if I can lose myself in love, then encountering the unpleasant parts of myself will seem easy.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm in a state of uh, a sensed union with self or source or spirit, then when I need to say, oh, I'm sorry, I really didn't see how that hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
it's lighter because it's not the loss of something that
Right.
I'm holding on to,
Yeah.
an identity or a belief or that. And so my thought is, if we can evolve while eating at the banquet,
Mm-hmm.
then anything that is less than pleasant, like the fears that arise or the trauma that needs to be healed, can be handled.
And don't worry if you get acid reflux from eating too much.
Right.
Just have a good belch and on go,
Yes.
all right? Or
Yes.
take an antacid. You know, that's the thing is, I think a lot of people are delusioned to the fact that you're going to step into a, you know, and that, kumbaya, everything is beautiful and wonderful, and a lack of reality. You're stepping into more realism in the cosmicism
Yes.
because you're tapped into the reality of the universe and you see what you should be responding to and what is not worth a response.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. I love that. There was also, just to make it real, I loved this image that Pema Chodron painted. She said she was in a one of the monasteries, and there were, what, 100 or 200 individuals and monks and nuns, and all sitting and meditating, and it looked so beautiful. It
Uh-huh.
looks like this sea of peace.
Yes.
And she said, but if you were to kind of reveal some of the subtext, she said you would probably see a million thought bubbles, like in the comic
Yes.
strips, all going on. So it like looks,
Yes.
and they're abiding in a state of holding all that chaos, but then all of the chaos is still happening.
Yes.
And I think that paints a nice picture that we can be that container wherein experience can happen, and it can have the varying states to it. It doesn't make it more or less good, bad, or effective or not effective.
We need chaos. Chaos is a propel forward. It is a cleansing of. It is finding structure within. You know, it is also the creative process. So chaos isn't something to be afraid of. It's when you step into chaos without the balance of, you know, peace and harmony, then you're stuck in this whirlwind going around and you're not doing anything with it. But when you use chaos as a propellant forward into something, then it actually is very, very productive.
Yes, and you know something I personally found as a security point in chaos, because I'm such a pioneer, I tend to plunge myself into a lot of chaos a lot. When I was in the monastery, the first time the season of Advent happened, so for those of you who don't know what Advent is, it's the 4 weeks of preparation before the Feast of Christmas. And the energy of Advent is preparation, but preparation from a place of hope that's not reaching towards something happening. It's a hope of knowing
Right. The
something
knowingness again.
never
Mm-hmm.
experienced
Mm-hmm.
is happening, that it's going, so there's a confidence in it. And the season is brimming with joy. But during the first chant on Vigil Saturday, as Advent was starting, with that chant, my whole being went into chaos. And it felt into the cosmology of pre-creation, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the actual non-existence of anything
Yes.
materially. And it was really scary because I went there like 100%, and it was very scary. It was very psychedelic. And in that place, I experienced something. In the notion of Mary, I experienced that the chaos was held, if you will, by the matrix,
Mm-hmm.
that there is a divine feminine holding
Yes.
that is the place wherein the chaos is happening. And just like all of us being called to be pregnant
Mm-hmm.
with the divine. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that gave me a great stability point. Like, oh, there is a place I can kind of put my hat and rest myself as my whole being is undone in chaos. And that is the organizing principle of the matrix.
And the matrix is that wonderful connectiveness where you know you're not alone, right? You don't need to identify everyone in the matrix. You just feel the support of the matrix.
Yes.
You know, when you look at a forest, all of those trees are connected and speaking to one another. Everything is speaking to one another, everything through the planet, everything through the air, the rustles of the trees, the animals. I mean, we're seeing, you know, animals, species coming together that should never be. Yeah, it should never be together. Yet they don't look at each other as different. They're just resonating on that same frequency.
Isn't
They
that
have
amazing?
matrically connected and see the need to be together. And I
That is
think,
so amazing.
yes,
Right.
isn't it? It's absolutely awesome to see this. And haven't the animals and the children become teachers to us how to not see the vessel, but see what lies within the vessel, the vibration of the vessel, and connect with that?
Oh, I love your languaging around that. Mm, good stuff. That's one of my hopes with Essence Tribe. So this
Yes.
online spiritual community that's just starting. Right now, the structure of it is very small, but I intend to allow it by the integrity of the members to be formed by the members' resonance.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
what we do and where we go is ultimately going to be informed by the very members. But to establish it as something solid, I'm the stronger energetic signature of it.
Right. Yes. You're the
So,
conductor in this orchestra.
yes, yes.
Yes.
So it's this wonderful place virtually where there's a private group, monthly webinar, monthly meditation, safe place to explore your own truth, and understanding that we're meant to have friends and community as we explore it, and a no judgment zone.
Right.
You can
Right.
bring your beliefs, you can bring your limitations, you can believe the things you don't believe. And ultimately, I see it manifesting into physical gatherings and
Mm.
ways people share their gifts with each other. But that's my hope, is that going beyond the vessel, just like you were saying, there can be a place on the essence level that's fertile ground,
Yeah.
like a virtual church. It's fertile ground for each person to discover themselves as wisdom, as goddess, as God, as
And
spirit.
again, you know, rather like Gus, God, universe, spirit, it doesn't matter what energy you connect with or pray to. It's just coming together in that vibration, that essence vibration, and leaving the labels at the door.
Yes, yes,
And
yeah,
we need that. We need that because I can tell you right now that, you know, so many people are awakening. And, you know, one of the reasons I do all these shows and bring all these wonderful people like Kimberly to you, the audience, is because people are awakening, their senses are awakening, their consciousness is awakening, but they're a little bit flapping in the wind because they don't know where to go or how to understand it or what does it mean to them. What do they do with it? And this is why all these wonderful coaches and inspirers that we have here, you listen to the shows and you'll find somebody that you resonate with. They're speaking to me. They've got an arena that I want to play in. You know, there is that connection. I don't know why, but I feel it. And you reach out, and then that person's to help you on your next chapter of life. And
yeah,
that's what it's about. We are not meant to be doing it alone. We are a community. We are a village. We are needing to be there in collaborative, in support of one another. And it's not about, some people will literally just come in their self-discovery and then move on. And some people would decide to stay and meet and greet others as they come. And there's no dictation of how it should be. It's just allowing the energy and that beautiful essence to be invitational and allow people to have that self-discovery of their beautiful vibration.
yeah, yeah. Amen, sister.
It is needed, it is needed, it is needed. Absolutely. And safe haven and a safe place for people to come and ask the weird and wacky questions that they're too afraid to ask
Yes,
in
that's
reality. And
exactly it.
right, and no, nothing of living, nothing is is,
Off
believe
limit.
me, no, nothing off limit.
Yeah.
And it's just a no judgment, and no needing of permission. Just be, just
Yeah.
be. And of course, fear, don't bother bringing it. Don't come if you're going to bring with the fear, right? Just,
Yes.
you can bring the I don't understand, or I'm a little trepidatious because I don't understand, but bring that beautiful exploration, that wonderment, because you're willing to understand, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, that is what we are doing and connecting this way today on these airwaves. I feel like we get such a great chance
Yeah.
to just even our conversation to amplify
Yeah.
that all happening. Words, I know that words so often can cause limitation,
Yeah.
but words also for me have always been such an incredible, powerful force, opening up new expression and opening up new opportunity. For me, words are hugely pregnant with spirit, if you
Right.
will. Um,
It's also getting people to that place where there is no word to describe it.
yeah,
And then when you're there, you're it. You're in it. You're being it. You don't need to
yes,
verbiage it. Just be
yeah.
present in it, right?
Amen. It's so true. And I always found one of the things I loved in the monastery and living in silence, and I still feel that I'm in that silence. People look at the difference in the lifestyle of living in silence, meditation, chant, nature, and now being in a world that's very noisy. But my experience in the silence that was dedicated became so strong that I actually feel like I'm always in that silence, even
Mm.
if there's cacophony in my room or in the environment that I'm in. And one of the things that I would love to invite everyone that's watching to is to explore the possibility that silence is replete with communication,
Oh,
that there's actually more communication happening when we are in a place of
mm,
silence than when we are in the communication that has its own imposed limitations. It's not a moving away from
no.
communication, it's going into the very heart of
Yes.
communication.
Amen. Amen. I was a very sickly child growing up and spent many years in bed, and no TV, no radio, nothing at that time. And I would be in my dimensional self. And there would always be a conversation going on. There would always be a journey or an exploration going on. And I was humanly alone, but never cosmically alone.
Mm,
Because I was always there. And now, I mean, after I've done a show, very often I'll find myself with the headphones on, hours later, just in the absorption of what's being downloaded. And that silence, so many people are afraid of it. And it's, don't be. Don't be. That is a most beautiful, beautiful place to be, because that's when you really start hearing what you really need to hear, what your heart and your soul really needs to hear. And again, it doesn't come in articulation sometimes of words. It can come in pictures, it can come in sounds, it can come in all sorts of ways, but it comes in a way that you understand without having to validate the understanding.
mhm. Yes, love
So
that.
the allowing, right? The allowing. Allow things to happen. Don't dictate them. Don't be afraid of them. Don't try and analyze them. The deep breath and allow it to happen. It's a great
Yes.
place to be. Now, tell us about Spain and the journey and the trip.
Yes. Oh, this is going to be a trip of of a lifetime. If you are drawn to learn more, feel free to reach out to me at kimberly@kimberlybraun.com. But also, Sara has the link, and you can jump right on to the profile that outlines everything that will happen. And the company that's putting it together, they're letting me create all the content, and they're taking care of logistics. So they're doing what they're best at. I'm doing what I'm best at. And it will be 10 days, 6 different cities in Spain, and we will go to 6 of the monasteries that Teresa and John founded, where they had the experiences that have given us the poetry
Hmm.
that breaks us open today. So we're going to let the poetry and the writings form each day. One day we'll go with the interior castle and we'll be where the mosaic of the interior castle is, and where Teresa wrote her first autobiography, which is the earlier version of Interior. Another day we'll go to where John was imprisoned in a Carmelite monastery in Toledo, where he wrote the spiritual canticle. We'll go where Dark Night of the Soul was written. We'll go where they lived, where they died, where they levitated. And what we're going to do is open up to them, letting us go that big and that far. So their experiences and their poetry will form it. And what's awesome is, if you've never been to Spain, I fashioned the retreat so that the company has you stay at really, really comfortable hotels. And every morning is at the monastery, and we'll be meditating, and I'll teach you, and you'll get to participate in chants that they would have done. Mm-hmm. There'll be inspirational talks, sharing exercises, integration exercises. And then after the noon meal, we will have a dedicated driver and a menu of choices. So if you want to stay with the Teresa and John experience, there'll be museums, there'll be artifacts, there'll be paths you can walk. You can walk in their very footsteps.
Yes.
And if you've just never been to Spain and you want to go to a local place, because they're beautiful, we're in 2 large towns and 4 really small rural towns that are beautiful countryside. You can go meet the locals. You can enjoy some Spanish wine. You can do a little food making tour. There'll be a whole menu of choices that you can choose from for the afternoons, so that the retreat can be what you would like best. And then in the evenings, later in the evening, we'll draw back together and it's optional, but there'll be an evening meditation. And I will be drawing upon the gifts of the attendees as well. So we'll fashion something that's really rich and lets us bring a closure to each day's experience, so that the next day you open a new door to yourself. So Interior Castle will have a closing. The next day we'll open Dark Night of the Soul. We'll close it. Then we'll open up the next poetry and we'll close it, so that you have this experience that is deeply and moving and directed, and lets you become different going forward from the retreat. That you'll walk different as you'll walk forward as a very different person.
So if you join the book club on it, where you learn all about it,
Yes.
and you join the essence, where you learn to tap into your essence, and then you go on this journey, merging all 3 of these experiences together, it really can be a transcending experience for someone who's willing to take this journey.
If right now someone in the new year is feeling that urging, those 3 pieces that are put together they are an incredibly powerful container. Guidance from the mystics of the past, community today, developing skillfulness today, and then of course I find the retreat experience to be one of the most transformative. And if you have someone, I've been leading retreats now for 17 years, and if you have someone that has a deep esteem of the retreat experience, you will find it'll be like a hero's journey. You'll be going forward from yourself, you'll have that you'll integrate, and then you'll move back into the world, not wanting to go back to the retreat, but coming forward in a new way.
Yeah. When is the whole retreat, the whole Spanish experience?
The retreat is from July 20th through the 29th. Registration is open. We will limit it. We do have people registering now. And you can work out on the site where you sign up and get the details. You can even work out how you pay. The company's awesome. So you can put down a deposit. You can spread it out from now till July, how you break things open. So we don't have any hard, fast.
Right.
The only hard, fast limit will be, I think a deposit needs to be made by April. Right. It doesn't mean, I think, in May that you couldn't sign on and pay in full right on the spot.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're going to break it out and how you want to pay out, you'll want to do that between now and April.
Excellent. having all three of the things and the whole journey, the whole experience, you know, we're always talking about ascension and transcending it and elevating and illuminating, enlightening. You can't do that, you kind of from your couch. You know, it's by taking the journey of the books and the stories, and then the intrigue of actually going to where they were, and that whole presence um, is absolutely wonderful. Apart from the fact I love Spain. Spain is a
Oh,
wonderful country. It is,
yeah.
and you know, just the experience there and the people there, they're so friendly. You know, it's a wonderful place to go. So, you know, that on top of it, but then also being part of the essence, um, you know, where you can then, while you're going through it, and then afterwards, sharing that transcendence with others. And, you know, what a gift to yourself, to the ones that are around you, because your essence is going to grow. It's going to vibrate out. It's going to raise other people's vibration. And what a beautiful inspiration and invitation it is for other people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is such a wonderful step that you've done, where people can take just one or the other. But if you take all three, what an experience.
It's true. And one plug to why it might be fun to do with me in particular is, having been a Carmelite nun, I had exposure to Teresa and John's lives and their writings in ways that aren't published.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like I've got the little skinny on them.
Yes, yes. Oh,
And
she's
there's
got
a
the
lot.
dirt.
I do, in the best sense of that word. And so there'll be a way that you get to open up friendship with them that not every retreat leader could give you exposure to.
But also the friendships of the people you're going to make who are doing this. They could
Oh,
be
it's going to
lifelong
be,
friends. I mean, you know,
they will be lifelong
in the
friends.
whole Essence platform, you know, all of you together. I mean, basically what you're doing with this, with people who decide to go through the whole three process, is that you're creating an orchestra, and that harmony and that symphony that they create and the resonance of what they send out can be absolutely so
Yeah.
extraordinary and uplifting.
Yes. Oh, I agree. And thank you for connecting the dots between all three of those offerings. I really appreciate that.
Oh, no, it just seems to be a no-brainer. Why would you go without doing the books, and why would you not be part of the essence where you can share the experience? I mean, they're just, you know, they're all part of the same body, the limbs, you know, that are important to share out there. And, you know, as you said, doing it with somebody who's got the inside story, not a commercial story. But I traveled a great deal in my younger years, and I remember, you know, walking on the Parthenon with my shoes off and just feeling the vibration and the history, you know, in the stones of the Parthenon. And I remember being in the old part of Madrid, and I fell in love with Madrid. You know, it was just not only with Madrid, but with somebody there. So that made the city
Oh,
yeah,
lovely.
short experience, but absolutely wonderful. And I just, you know, loved the vibration, because I'm a vibrational creature. I'm always looking for that frequency. I didn't know I was looking for it then, but it was something that's kind of seeked it out. There's actually a wonderful story, completely off topic, but the person I was in love with wasn't there, but I made friends with this beautiful um, Arab French lady living there. It was exquisitely beautiful, died way too soon at the age of 34 of a blood aneurysm, and her boyfriend there, and my 21st was there, and my boyfriend couldn't be with me on my 21st, but we had it the next day. But I remember with those two lovers in the back seat, and I'm just driving somewhere. I don't even remember where I drove. I just drove out in the countryside singing to Sergio Mendes, Brazil 66, and just being so completely tapped in into an
Oh,
energy and an elevation that was just a wonderful memory.
I
And then
love
they
it.
took me out on my 21st, and remember going to this piano bar where the piano player dedicated every song I wanted for the whole evening. So yes, I've got fond memories of Madrid and Marbella.
Well, here we go. Another endorsement.
Yeah, oh no, no, it's a great experience. But you know, don't do one without the other, because then you're not reading the whole book, so to speak. You know, you need to know the story to actually appreciate the journey. And then you need to be able to share that journey with others that maybe haven't gone, and that maybe would like to do something else in the future, but just in that elevation of what that story meant to you. And that's what it's about, right? That is what it's about.
Yes, absolutely. Well, maybe there'll be some ability for you to go with us. You would bring an incredible experience. You would add to the experience
I,
greatly.
I will be over in Europe this year, but I'll be actually over gathering other beautiful radio podcast hosts to bring under this new umbrella of the conscious arena that people can come to and know they're going to get vibrational people like you in there. So I will be over in Europe, so I may not be able to join you on it, but maybe there's a connection. Who knows? I know I'm going. I don't know when I'm going or how I'm going. I just know I'm going, and then I just leave it up to the lap of the gods to present when and how and what. So that's I think that's also another thing with humans. Yes, but when? But how? But this, but that. No buts. I know I've been told I'm going. I've been told this platform I have to do. I've been told this and that. Now get out of my own way and get on with it.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. It's been so wonderful being with you.
Oh, it's always a delight to have you here. It really is. And I just love watching your journey. As I said, like, I wouldn't be surprised if you say, hey, we're going to the moon. It's you're not afraid of exploration, but you don't just do it where, let's just go and flap our wings and see where it takes us. You take people on that beautiful, divine, metaphysical, cosmic journey into self through the discovery of other people's journeys. And I love it. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. And I love what you're doing. Your ministry is so incredibly needed and powerful.
Where people have got to find awesome people like you, and I'm a one-stop shopping folks place. You can come and find all these awesome people right here. And I do invite people to go back and listen to your other shows with me because, in each show you're sharing another journey, another exploration, and and you're an inspiration because you don't stay stagnant. You're always in wonderment. But you do the wonderment by making sense out of it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is for a lot of people, I'm a flapper in the wind. I just go wherever the energy is, and it will be revealed. I don't need always the structure of it. The structure will come when I need it. But you bring in that beautiful, wonderful, wonderful wonderment and energy and exploration, but you bring it in a very sensible and matrix connection that puts the peoples together, that will give people an experience that is beyond what they could experience. So I really do encourage people to sign up for all of this and just go and do it. Go and have an experience of a lifetime. It is something that not only will stay with you, but it will elevate you, and then it will inspire all those around you that you share it with.
Amen. Amen. And I believe that because I'm at the service of it.
Exactly. This is, again, going back to what's our instrument in life.
Yeah.
Your instrument is this, and you keep putting little orchestras together. And then once that orchestra is going, off you go to create another orchestra elsewhere, and I'm here to bring beautiful instruments like you and put them together as an orchestra. So we're conductors, right? We're bringing people
Yes.
together, and it's wonderful when you see people coming together, creating their own music. Oh, hallelujah, it is awesome.
Oh, hallelujah.
Yes, exactly. And then we see that elevation, and off we go to the next chapter, right? And but we know that we've left some good music behind us,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is this is the reason why we do what we do.
Mm.
And the more we leave that wonderful music and that beautiful loving vibration in lives that have been changed, it's the domino effect, the ripple effect goes out. It doesn't stay with that one person. It can't. When you've stepped into this beautiful essence, you will always shine bright for others. You can't help it, because that light is to something that is such an elevation that it becomes that invitation.
Yeah. Yes. Mm.
Cool times. It's actually really cool times, because the universe is so pushing us forward and being supportive, isn't it?
Yes.
It's really nice. We're not fighting a wind anymore and trying to convince people. People are hungry and they're wanting to know. And so people are going with the flow now. And the more they're willing to do that, the more that we can get that wind behind us and just take a flight up into the sky and see where we're going.
Yes.
Destination Moon.
I love that. That's a great. I wrote that down. That is awesome.
I really like the idea of cheese, biscuits, wine, looking down on the earth.
Yeah.
Really great. So I think it could be really, really cool. But I think one of the important messages that you're giving people is that there's the physical experience that helps the metaphysical experience unite or become as one. You're building or you're connecting the matrix that lies within them. And then once they've discovered that signature of their own matrix, they can then bring it to the overall matrix and find their connections. So you're switching them on.
Yes. Thank you. Awesome.
Beautiful work. So the general site that people can find you and then find all the information from there?
Absolutely. KimberlyBraun.com.
And that's BRAUN.
That's correct.
Okay, so KimberlyBraun.com. When you go to selfdiscoveryradiotv.com and put in Kimberly Braun, you will find all the shows that we have done together and all the wonderful wisdom that is here. You know she's an inspiration. You've listened to this today. She has so much more to share. And I look forward to the next event you're going to come back and share with us. And just, really excited to see where your wings take you.
I look forward to that, Sarah. It has been awesome. I am so honored when we started this friendship now 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I look forward to continuing this conversation that's really pregnant with spirit.
Yeah. And actually, I'd love you to come back in the fall after the journey and experience and share the experience. And also, there's some of the epiphanies that people had through it. I'd love you to come back and share what the results were of this, because for people that are still on the fence, it goes, wow, that was the experience they had. Sign me up the next time.
Right. I will do it.
Good. Excellent. Wonderful. Always a divine experience having you here. I'm going to introduce you to Charles, and I really look forward to the next time, but have a wonderful time out there. I know you will.
Blessings, my friend.
Thank you so much. And to everyone else out there,
yes,
get those wings, flapping and dust them off and be willing to be exploratory and dive into these wonderful teachings. If you can't sign up for the trip right now, as they said, they have a payment plan. You've got 6 months to pay. Go and treat yourself. This is a journey of a lifetime, and the connections you make in the book club and then on the journey here, and with the essence, you are stepping into a community, a matrix, a loving community where you can share your beautiful beingness and just develop some friendships that will last you a lifetime. Yeah. So don't be afraid to have some wonderment in your life and step into it. So until next time, folks, please be willing to explore. Bye for now. For more wonderful shows like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.